Hello, sir. Good evening. Welcome
Very
to
good evening.
for the interview.
Thank you.
We'll be carrying an interview for you, and we'll be asking you questions. Be as true as you can, and as explainable as curious you want to answer the questions. We'll be very happy to take over it.
We'll try to do that.
Perfect. So I'll just start with the interview, and the first question which we have for you is: you have long association in education field, and throughout your professional career, what are the key factors that keep you connected with the education sector?
See, Rachit, I have been into this world of education, particularly the higher education space, for the last over 35 years, right? To be precise. To begin with, I was not directly connected with academics, but I was acting as some resource which was supporting the mainstream academics. But for the last 30 years, I have been really into academics, at the core of it. Now, having seen what you can do and what you have contributed to the academic activity mix of an institution of higher learning in all its domains like teaching, research, consulting, and training, and then having understood that this is one thing which pleases you, this is one thing which gives you utmost joy and satisfaction, I thought this is the way to stay connected with the world of education. That is one reason, because it is an area where you are able to give 100% to what you are passionate about, and which has been education. Now, having said that, look at the variety of courses that I have taught for last 35 years, right? Look at the volume of research that I have tried to put in place by writing at least about 200, 300 research papers, which have been accepted, which have been published in good quality journals of repute, having then written at least about 20, 25 best-selling kind of books and edited some of them. So if you see all of that before you, you see your students, dominating almost all parts of the globe. You see your research contributions, like your papers and books, finding acceptance in best possible corners, right, in academic circles. Then you see your consulting has paid to very many clients that I have consulted. And you see your training interventions have borne fruit, by training the executives at the various senior levels in so many organizations, public and private sector. Going to any place, when you bump into on airport, on railway station, to some of these people who could be students, who could be practitioners, who could be government think tank, who could be anybody, you love the kind of area that you have been contributing. So that is one, which has kept me glued to education sector. Second is, when I was at IIM Lucknow, my previous assignment, Almighty was kind to offer me very many opportunities where I could act as some kind of mentor to some upcoming institutions like IIMs. IIM Sirmaur was coming up, IIM Kashipur was coming up. So I had the good fortune of being asked by my institution to be involved in mentoring those institutions, right? Similarly, 2-3 institutions of higher learning, like central universities came up. One came up in Jammu, the other came up in Himachal, the other came up in Kashmir. So I was fortunate to be associated with them in the establishment phase as a mentor, recruiting faculty, letting them know how to build institutions. So that said, that having been there, I had done my bit for 30, 35 plus years in institution building, and I had a good kind of a grip what it takes to build an institution of excellence. So that is the second driver to keep me engaged with building institutions of higher education. Third, which is very important, I may say it is third, but to me as a teacher, what I'm passionate about is it gives me an opportunity to stay connected with the youth of the nation, right? So if you see, as a passionate teacher, you are helping the youth of this nation to shape up as right ambassadors of this great nation. I think that is a contribution which is unparalleled for a teacher. So these are three things, if not more, which have kept me glued to the world of education, and I would like to be associated with education space as long as I can.
Perfect. So being the VC of JK Lakshmipad University, what is your philosophy of leadership? How would you like to describe your leadership style?
Rachit, all along my life, whether I have been in a leadership role or not at that leadership roles, I have always believed in people have their skill sets and competencies. People know what they are good at. People have their strengths and weaknesses. So what I have tried to understand is apply my knowledge, skill, mind, and whatever acumen I have to identify that potential in my people. Right? Once I have identified, I let them leverage on that potential to the best. Right? That is what I have believed has helped me to say the leadership style when you talk about is my leading from the front, right? So I have had this style, put in place in very many institutions. When I got to the assignment of dean at IIM Lucknow, I had to be looking after planning and administration. So I had understood the pulse of people in my own frame. So let them do what they are good at and gave them all kind of facilities. To them, I told, I'm just your assistant. You come out with any idea, I'll be the first next to none to take it forward. Similarly, when it came to leading another institution of excellence in Delhi, people call it Lal Bahadur Shastri Institute of Management. I was there for 4 years directly and indirectly. I stay engaged with them in one way or the other. So there, I tried to see, because the teachers there were only predominantly operating in teaching mode. I said, that's not the way an institution of excellence can be built, because an institution of academic excellence can be built if it contributes to the knowledge cycle, which is knowledge generation through research, knowledge dissemination through teaching, and knowledge application through various consulting and training development interventions. So at that institution, at that time, I took over as the director of the institute. Apart from teaching, there wasn't much, impetus to the other activity mix of the institute. So I had to lead from the front. I said, see, if I can do it properly, you can also do it. Despite my responsibilities in other areas, like building the institution or administration or so many other areas. So it was just to let them know that if despite these kinds of roles and responsibilities, I can find time to contribute a bit in research, in consulting, in training. So when they got that, and there was no looking back for them. So leading from the front is what I have believed, and leading by example is what others say. I have tried to, have that policy, which has given me an interesting, frame to work with people, right? Because the more you trust on people, the more they will come out with their best. The more you have confidence in your people, their support and cooperation and involvement and engagement oozes, because they know here is a person whom we can go to as our leader, as our mentor, as our guide, and then they contribute their best. And this is what I have followed all my life, and whether I am a vice chancellor now or I have been in any role, giving them the opportunity to contribute the best, leading by example.
Perfect. Such a great life, sir. Such a great motto also. So how does the curriculum of JKNU ensure the best practice for the industry?
See, Rachit, curriculum wherever and whenever is designed and delivered by a mix of academics and industry, is sure to give you an industry-ready curriculum. So to make sure that we do it in letter and spirit, our faculty body, the core faculty from which it starts, right, is also a mix of hardcore academics and hardcore professional practitioners, right? So the course curriculum design, the basic structure, basic elements of the course curriculum start getting formed up by this kind of a faculty body, which has a good mix of academics and industry. Now that is first step. Then we have boards of studies all across the university in all my institutions. Now the board of studies has academics, has industry practitioners. So when this course curriculum is put to those boards, they would look at it in terms of how is it relevant, how is it contemporary to what the industry of today and tomorrow is looking for from the graduates which will come out from this university. Now, not only at the Board of Studies, then we have another senior level body, which is Academic Council. And our chancellor, who is a seasoned industrial tycoon of the country, the CMD of JK organization, 125-year organization. So his suggestion to me on this has been, in particular, Dr. Saab, I want Academic Council to be consisting of 50% academics and 50% practitioners. So if you have that thought, well, coming to us from the top, then it will happen that your curriculum will be contemporary, your curriculum will be industry ready. It doesn't stop there. We have over and above these bodies put up in place a very stellar, academic advisory board. The board consists of only 5-6 people, but they represent who's who in academics and who's who in industry. They are from all parts of respected places of the globe. We have people from US, we have people from UK, we have people from India, of course, we have people from industry in India, academics in India. So that board oversees the curriculum. Not only the curriculum, oversees its design, the integration part. It also sees the delivery. Now, once we have this very much in place, I'm sure the curriculum will be contemporary and industry ready. Not only the curriculum, but its delivery. Not only delivery, but the most critical component, which is the assessment and evaluation. All of this is overseen in bits and pieces by industry and academic leadership. So we say it's quite contemporary and industry ready.
Great. So JKLU is like emerging as one of the leading institutions on the educational horizon of Rajasthan, of Northwest India. Tell us about the efforts in taking it to that level today, and how do you plan to take JKLU to even more greater heights?
See, Rachit, what we have said, and I quite appreciate on that the idea of our, promoters, the JK organization. We are a university, but we are a university not into anything and everything, right? We are a university in chosen preferred fields of study and research. We could have, by virtue of being university, dabbled into each and every branch of the universe of knowledge. No, the mandate is very clear. We will pick up few areas where we can do justice, right? It is not going for education for the sake of it. We have said we would like to be known as one of the most innovative institutions of higher education and research. So having been established in 2011, we were working with 2 schools, Institute of Engineering and Technology and Institute of Management. It is just last year we have added an Institute of Design, thinking that this is the integrator of the 2 institutions going forward. So that is why we have said teaching and learning at this university happens at the intersection of design, technology and management. So when we have gone ahead with this kind of an approach, we say we are not a Me Too university. We are a university which is different. In accordance and in consonance with this philosophy and approach, we have taken upon ourselves a transformation journey, wherein our wheel of teaching learning is something unique to us. What is that wheel of learning? And this is one of our innovative ways of addressing the teaching learning processes, systems, procedures of the country. That wheel of learning talks about 3-4 things. A student has come to this university for engineering, so be it. He has come to us for management, so be it. He has come to us for design, so be it. He will go out of this university as a graduate in design, as a graduate in management, or a graduate in engineering. No doubt about it. He has come to us for that. But we don't believe just by teaching him all possible courses of engineering to an engineering student, let it be in mechanical, he is a complete integrated human being. The university is churning out for the society and the nation at large. Yes, there is not to be any compromise on the domain that he has come to study with us, but just not the domain is enough to make him a complete human being, which is of relevance to the society, relevance to the nation at large. So without any compromise on that domain, we want him to have as much depth in that, but it has to be, with an exposure to as many areas as possible. The second component that we are talking about is we have given educate, focus, thrust, and impetus on bringing in the concept of flexibility and interdisciplinariness, right? So we will teach an engineering student, for instance, courses from design, courses from management, right? Coursing from liberal studies. So is true with a student in management taking some courses in data sciences, taking some courses in design thinking, and vice versa. So we have built in this kind of a mechanism. Third, we want to make sure when we teach our students, it is not just confined to the classroom discussion of theoretical concepts, which are very essential, which are very important, but at the same time, give them opportunity right from day one to see how these concepts are applied, are applicable in the real life situation. So we will give him enough opportunity to understand by what we call as learning by doing, or experiential learning, or project-based learning. So whatever he understands, whatever he learns, is learned with an application frame of mind. The fourth thing that we have tried to do is we have established a Center of Communication and Critical Thinking. We call it CCC. Now, it over a period of time has evolved 6 courses. I don't think any other place in the country or other places has done that, which is unique. So we want to make sure that our student is equipped with more sought after skill sets and competencies like communication, critical thinking, problem solving, decision making, working in teams, leadership, negotiation, whether he is an engineering student, whether he is a management student or a design student, because these are the skill sets which the industry needs. So we have kept a layer of these personality development components. Now we give them exposure through various workshops and seminars, on perspective building. So they should know something on environment, they should know something on sustainability, they should know something on compassion. You'll be surprised to know I teach a course on C learning, which is social, emotional, and ethical learning. And the focus there is mindfulness, ethics, compassion. So these are the kinds of things we have tried to put in place and make sure that these courses are not taught to a student in one go. They are taught to him term after term, semester after semester, as long as the student is with the university for a 4-year program in engineering, 3-year program in BCom, BBA, or B Design, or a 2-year MBA program. So, which is unlike in many other institutions. They think I was teaching at IIM Lucknow a subject like communication. So we thought you teach communication course in term 1 and be done with it. He has learned everything for all his life, which is not true. So that is what we are trying to do with this transformation measure. Now the second thing is, we know we may do a whole lot of things on the curriculum, we may do a whole lot of things on the pedagogy, we may do a whole lot, but it is actually the drivers, the faculty. So we do everything possible to attract the best of the best faculty. We do everything possible to retain, groom those kinds of faculty members who are passionate about this world. And that is because that is another pillar. If you don't have the kind of people who understand the challenging times, who understand the new world of teaching and learning process, it will be going for a toss. So that is another area that we have tried to see. We have tried to understand from the best practices that are available, that are put in place by the best of the best benchmarked institutions globally. You'll be happy to know, just to make sure that we are using project-based learning, right, in our university. We had to tie up with one of the best institutions which is known world over for its project-based learning. You must have heard of All-in College of Engineering, right? So we tied up with them. We sent our faculty over there. They underwent a training on this project-based learning. We have a mentor from that institution who is always mentoring our faculty and also at times students, so that this project-based learning is not, which happens at other places, given just a lip service. We mean it. So these are some of the things that we have tried to do and our linkage and connect with industry, with government, with think tank, with the planners, policymakers is our other attracted focus attention, which we are looking at to address the challenges of really making a dent in the education space by being one of the most innovative institutions of higher learning.
Perfect. You will make man complete. Like you provide with the best solutions the country is looking out for. So, coming back to the point, what are some of the biggest challenges you see, both for higher education in general and for the university specifically? Like, how the student who's like passing out from schools coming into university, like what are the difference? Like, what are some of the biggest challenges you face over there?
It is not only here in India, but elsewhere also we experience these challenges, and this is what I was trying to say, how we have tried to address it. You must have heard industry on the one side saying whatever the boys and girls are being produced by the academic institutions are not employable. They don't have the requisite skill sets and competencies, right? Now higher education institutions saying, all right, what can we do? We get the prof from schools and colleges where not much has been done on those areas. And the areas are not new, the areas, as I said, are communication, problem solving, critical thinking, those kinds of things. So if the interfacing institutions, which are the higher education institutions, say, well, it has not been done by the schools and colleges, and industry says what the universities are producing or not. So this is not going to continue. So this is a challenge which higher education institutions are experiencing. And that's why we said we have created 3-4 centers of excellence. The Center for Communication and Critical Thinking is one, Center for Data Science is another, and the third, we have put it in place. Fortunately for us, we got the Atal Incubation Center by the Niti Aayog of the Government of India. By virtue of that, this Atal Incubation Center provides ample opportunities for our students who want to experiment with their ideas which are innovative through Center of Entrepreneurship and Innovation and Incubation. So Center of Communication and Critical Thinking works with students all the time that they are to equip them with these. So the challenges are clear for all of us. It is just that we have tried to understand and address them through creating these unique centers of excellence, one in communication critical thinking, the other in innovation and entrepreneurship, the other in data science, because these are the emerging areas and most sought after areas, right, which will be needed. So the challenges are on that. The challenges now with COVID have been manifold, right? To understand, all in a sudden we had to switch over to a different platform, different way of teaching, online teaching. So it had its own challenges. Our faculty was not 100% prepared because we had done the normal teaching all our lives. To me also as a teacher, because I am a teacher, and I had done all my life in the normal classroom setting. So all of a sudden COVID woke us up and said, no, you cannot do it. You have to pack the students to their respective places, and the teaching and learning has not to be impacted. So we had to switch gears. It took us some time, but this was a big challenge. Now, challenge for the faculty on one side, challenge for the students on the other side, challenge for technology on the other. So we had to really understand and address these kinds of challenges, which were manifold. But let me reassuringly tell you, our students came forward, our faculty came forward, a lot of enthusiasm, interest, and we found the online engagement in teaching was more than what we would have experienced in other normal teaching. The attendance improved, their performance improved, their feedbacks improved. So we got a challenge and we had to understand and anticipate this and address it. We did it. That was another challenge. Now, since this challenge, we don't know what is the situation after some time going to be like. We don't know, right? So students are struggling in terms of admissions. There are issues which are very clear. So make sure that we stay connected with our students who have shown interest in us. Can you understand? We are doing some courses which will lead to a certificate course to them, which will be complementary. And these are courses for the students who have sought admission with us. We know they cannot come to us for another month and a half, but to keep them engaged and to keep them interested in what JKLU is all about. So we have designed a course on general management, this pre-engineering course where we teach them fun with mathematics, fun with this, fun with similarly on design, similarly in management. These are the kinds of things we do to help them stay engaged. But challenges are there. Students are unclear. People are saying that parents are little feeling worried. Should they send them to campuses? It's not in Rajasthan. It's all over the country. So these are some challenges which we have to understand. Now, we used to have a lot of emphasis and focus earlier when these admission issues were coming up. Hey, how are we in terms of the curriculum? How are we in terms of the co-curriculum? How are we in terms of the extracurriculars? Is our sports area okay? Is our health, is our food okay? Right now, the focus and attention of the students and the parents and the faculty and the university is how we are COVID conscious, how we are health and safety conscious. That is more and more emphasis every institution of higher learning is looking at. They would look at if the classes are to be on in this environment, have you kept the provision of social distancing in the classroom, in the labs, in the hostels, in the mess, in the library, in the computer center, in the workshop. So these are some kinds of challenges, and it is only those institutions who will respond to these kinds of challenges will thrive. Otherwise, there won't be any opportunity. Suppose we have a classroom which can accommodate 60 students at a time. We have to make sure that the class is organized in 2 shifts, right? Those are the kinds of things which are challenges because of COVID. And there are many other challenges.
Lastly, I just want to ask you one question. Any suggestion you would like to give to current youth? I have heard so many things which you have just mentioned, but anything specific which you want to mention to the current youth and the aspiring students for your university?
Yeah, I have always been teaching, preaching, saying, following one thing, and that is, believe in giving back, believe in giving, believe in helping out. You will be happy. Let me tell you, because one thing I must share with you to conclude this. I was teaching a course here, I'm teaching a course here at the university, which is, I said SEE learning, SEE, which is social, emotional and ethical learning. It's a course which has been designed and developed and delivered first time in the world by a university in the US. We call it Emory University. Now, when my colleague who asked me to teach this course brought it to my notice, he said, "Sir, I have seen it happening at that university." And I told him what triggered you that we should do it. Sir, they are doing it at their university because they have a chair in the name of His Holiness the Dalai Lama. I said, yeah, if they can do it, why shouldn't we do it? Because I had a good, some kind of connect with His Holiness. So I had known what does he mean by compassion, what does he mean by mindfulness, what does he mean by helping others. So I said, all right, we'll give it a try. So we tried, and trust you me, this paid rich dividends. How? During this COVID regime, a student group of ours came to me, "Sir, can we do something at this age and stage of the game we are?" I said, what can we do? We are all in lockdown. What can we do? What can you do? What can I suggest to you? Sir, they came out after doing their due diligence and research. They came out with an idea that, sir, these elderly need our help of some kind or the other. Because everybody is taken care of by various bodies, government, non-government, NGOs and whatnot. But we haven't seen much being done for the elderly. And we have seen an organization in the country which is doing a lot, not only in COVID and COVID-like times, but otherwise for elderly. And the name is Elder Care, which is an official organ of another leading name in the country, Samarth. So we have reached out to them. We find that they are doing a great job. So why can't we do, as the student community of this university, to reach out to people in Jaipur who are elderly and need some kind of help? And I said, what kind of help? You can't provide everything that they need. No, sir, we know what government is doing. We want to do something which can add, supplement and complement to government mechanism for them. I said, what could that be? My colleague, my pro-vice chancellor asked, what could that be? So then we zeroed in on 3 things. It could be somebody in need of some help in food, on medicine, or some talking over counseling, because these elderly need that kind of treatment. They want somebody to talk to. I said, that's fine. So how do we go about it? We went and met the local administration, right? The collector, he was very nice, not to begin with, but he was very nice when he understood what we are looking at. He said, all right, we will join hands. And trust you me, that experience was mind-boggling. And these students who got together as a group under the able mentorship of our faculty colleagues who were passionate of doing something for these elderly, guided them. In 1 month, they told me in less than a month, 1,300, 1,400 people requests were entertained, which could have not been attended to if this service helpline was not available. So in that process, why I'm saying what I'm saying, the group of students who had volunteered, why had they volunteered, in my opinion, was because their joinings to various organizations were delayed because of this COVID, or their internships were delayed because of COVID, or there was some issues related to it. Now, after a while, when these lockdowns became little easy and the openings started, they asked them to come for duty, and we felt, yeah, now these boys and girls will go. Who will continue on this? So one fine evening, the faculty mentor with that group told that group, all right, so you have to go to your job, to your works. You won't be available for this kind of a thing. They said, no, sir, the joy, the satisfaction, the pleasure, the happiness, this service rendering has given to us, I don't think there is any substitute to it. Right? They said, we will continue with our work from home, we will continue with our internships, we will continue with our placement, but we will not let go this kind of a service. So I saw, if we are doing what as a university should do to make sure that these students have these value systems, they care for such kind of things, and they are conscious about this, that they believe in giving something to others and bring a joy and satisfaction to them, nothing like that. My submission to my students, my youth is, whatever it takes to build yourself, right? Please, the society will do, your parents will do, educational system will do, everybody will do. But it is time for you to understand that and to the system, pay back to the society, believe in giving others as much as you can, because richness and happiness and satisfaction is what everybody is looking at the end of it. And there is no satisfaction, there is no happiness, there is no pleasure better than the joy of giving back.
Such a great thought, sir. Such a great thought. I believe everyone who is going through the same thought process will develop into the best human being which we all together can aspect of. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you for your lovely thoughts, your guidance. I am highly obliged to take the interview of such a esteemed person. Thank you so much for your time, and we'll connect soon. We'll have a chat over when the COVID is out. We'll definitely come down to JKU. We'll have a coffee together. We'll talk it out, because I totally agree to the points which you have just mentioned, how lovely it is to develop yourself in this time of pandemic. And when you come out as a stronger human being, then things will automatically come and fall into places for what thoughts you are having. Education is one thing, mannerism is one thing. Both, if a person is having both the parts of the life, then eventually he will be the person who other people will be looking up to. Thank you so much for your time, sir. Thank you.